Atiku Abubakar's lawyer raises alarm over delay in the release of the copies of judgment of the presidential election petition court after the court made its judgment on Wednesday. They say it's delaying their further action to appeal the matter to the Supreme Court. And tonight, we'll also dissect for you some of the activities of President Bola Tinubu. How has it fared in the last 100 days? Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale in Abuja. Tonight, our attention is some of the reactions that are still trailing the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Court and some of the actions to be taken by the opposition political party. The former vice president and the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, said they will appeal the matter. We have also heard from Mr. Peter Obi, who is saying that they are not satisfied and he has instructed his lawyers on the next line of action. In all of this, Atiku's lawyers have written for the last 2 days, on Thursday and today again, written to the secretary and the registrar of the court asking for the copies of the judgment so that they can be able to file their appeal to the Supreme Court. Don't forget that the lead counsel to Atiku Abubakar's team had raised this matter before the Presidential Election Court on Wednesday when the court delivered his judgment, asking and pleading with the court to get the judgment. But this is the letter. First one written, dated 7th, and the second one, which is as a reminder of the first one that was written, which was dated the 8th, and signed by Chief Chris, which is Senior Advocate of Nigeria, the lead counsel to Mr. Atiku Abubakar. Renewed hope. That is what Bola Tinubu has promised. But how has he fared in the last 100 days or more that he's been in the office? His policy directions, his policy decisions, and some of the steps that he has taken. Has that come to you? As a Nigerian, we'll be dissecting some of these issues for you tonight. So stick around with me, everyone. So much to chew on the program right here. Let's first and foremost check your political roundup stories.
The National and State Houses of Assembly Election Petition Tribunal, sitting in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, has nullified the election of Senator Emmanuel Udende of the All Progressives Congress, representing Benue North, and of the Democratic Party, as the senator-elect for Benue North-East Senatorial District in the 2023 general election. Chairman of the three-man panel of justices, Justice Orizik Ikoha, held that the petitioner, Mr. Gabriel Suswam, proved the allegation of overvoting, mutilation and cancellation of results and election malpractices in 5 out of the 7 local government areas of the senatorial district. The tribunal chairman discounts 51,895 votes from Mr. Emmanuel Udende's votes and also 21,229 votes from Mr. Gabriel Suswam before recalculating their final votes, leaving Mr. Gabriel Suswam with 90,570 votes to beat the incumbent, Mr. Emmanuel Udende, who is left with 82,699 votes. One of the tribunal members, however, disagrees with the decision, noting that the petitioner did not prove how overvoting took place to warrant the cancellation. A point counsel to Mr. Udende says he will appeal the judgment, while counsel to Mr. Suswam welcomes the tribunal judgment. In the southeast, in Imo State, the election petition has affirmed Eugene Okechukwu of the All Progressives Congress APC as the winner of the Oguta Ohaji Egbema Oru West Federal Constituency of Imo State. In a unanimous judgment, the 3-member panel led by Justice Yusuf Halilu held that Dibiagu Eugene Okechukwu was duly elected by a majority of lawful votes cast at the election. The All Progressives Congress Professionals Forum has hailed the verdict of the Presidential Elections Petitions Court that upheld the victory of the candidate of the APC in the 2023 presidential election. The forum also urged the presidential candidates of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, and that of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, to join hands with President Bola Tinubu in his efforts towards rebuilding the nation. The Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu has returned to Nigeria from his 3-month medical leave. Sources close to the governor say he's in Ibadan in Oyo State. An image of the governor aboard an aircraft surfaced online where it indicated that he was homebound on a medical leave in June, and it was extended indefinitely by the House of Assembly. He, however, transferred power to his deputy, Lucky Ayedatiwa, in line with constitutional provisions. A preliminary report of the findings from the needs assessment of political parties in Nigeria, organized by the Kuga Center, in partnership with the European Union Support Democratic Governance in Nigeria, has been presented to the public today in Abuja. Speakers at the event agree that for the nation's politics to stabilize, politicians should see their parties beyond mere contractions and as a vehicle to only ascend into power without the positive gains of leadership.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's then take some knife to dissect and get some inside understanding of what the judgment of the Presidential Election Tribunal Court is all about, and of course, what Tinubu has been doing in the last 100 days as president of Nigeria. Now, he's gotten some more strength in his footing as a president with the Presidential Election Court. Well, don't hold your breath, because there is those who are still going upstairs to the Supreme Court to challenge the decision of the court. So it's not Uru yet until the Supreme Court says it is. So let's get talking tonight. I have a panelist for you tonight. I have a former presidential spokesperson, Mr. Laolu Akande. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, sir.
I appreciate it. And the former presidential candidate of the ADP and the chairman of the Interparty Advisory Council, Alhaji Yabaji Sani. Thank you so much indeed for coming.
Thank you, Sean, for having me.
Let me get your view on the Presidential Election Tribunal. Generally, the composure and the manner in which the conduct of the court on that day, on Wednesday, from what you have experienced, this is not your first time of running for president. What is your assessment of the conduct generally?
Well, I think we must give it to the judges in the sense that they couldn't have done otherwise than to read the law and interpret the law the way it is, without some speculations or inferences or whatever. Of course, making references to the past, judgments that have relations with what they're talking about, and remember that this is democracy, and the democracy, I think, is about people. Whenever there's dispute, you have what we call dispute resolution, and I think the tribunals are, by and large, for that purpose. How do we resolve this issue of people that say they have won, and those that say that no, you have not won, I'm the winner, and again, the electoral umpire, that is INEC, having fulfilled its own requirement as per the mandate given to them, have declared a winner. So now,
did they fulfill their requirement?
Well,
under the law, did they, in the full gamut of it, did they do what is being required of them?
Well, did they do
practically speaking?
No, practically speaking, did they do what is required of them? That now is subject to the analysis of the actions and inactions of INEC. But again, when you look at it, as far as the law is concerned, as far as the Electoral Act is concerned, is that elections must be conducted. Results will be, collation will be done. Results will be announced, and that's what INEC did. Given what they are supposed to do, conducting elections within the law, the confines of the law, and then declaring, the winner.
And I'd like to
they did that.
Yeah.
And another thing, so, what you are talking about is whether or not what they did it well.
In full compliance.
Yes.
And to the satisfaction, because you conduct election to the interest of the populace.
Exactly.
Are those met? Those interests of the populace, were those interests met? That's the question.
Yeah, but again, they also were constrained by the laws that they are supposed to, were guided by the laws. That is the Electoral Act and their own regulations. And again, like so the Electoral Act supersedes the regulations of INEC. when you take it from the Constitution itself, which is grand norm, you come to the Electoral Act that is used to administer, the mandate of INEC, and then you now look at that, within the framework, the legal framework. I think INEC did what they're supposed to do. But then the question is, did they meet, the expectations of Nigerians? That's another thing entirely.
So the question is that if I ask an assistant of mine, go to the market and get me 100 eggs, that is what is required to make a certain meal.
Yeah.
And he goes to the market and gets me 50 eggs. And he says, look, I've gotten you the eggs that you required. I needed 100 eggs to fulfill or to make the meal that I want. Yeah. Now you brought eggs, but are you able to fulfill the mandate that you have been given? Provide 100 eggs from the market. So the question is, Nigerians wanted INEC, and based on INEC's promises, and this is the premise of my next question to you. Well, the Constitution has empowered INEC. Yes. And it says, INEC shall conduct the election and provide a guidelines as it deems fit. Yeah. And I personally think, to a large extent, that provision that INEC will provide a guideline is a direct inspiration from the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Yes. So part of the guideline that INEC has provided is that it was going to put results somewhere. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. If INEC does not do all of that, would you say that INEC has done what it should do morally to the people of Nigeria?
Yeah, but don't forget that INEC is operating within some conditions, which we know ourselves. That's why, you see, when you look at the Electoral Act itself, what it says, there are a lot of ambiguities, and a lot of conflict between the regulations of the INEC and the Electoral Act itself. The conflict in the sense that, like you rightly said, the Constitution says INEC should provide guidelines as it deems fit, and INEC provided these guidelines, but that does not make the guidelines of INEC to be superior to the letter of the Electoral Act. This is the issue. And you see, I think what Nigeria should have, we lost this right from the time when the National Assembly brought out this Electoral Act. That was the time that we lost, the ground to really ensure that INEC, does, like you say, get us 100 eggs. INEC will tell you, yes, I went to the market, I couldn't find 100 eggs.
So, one of the issues that raised, and we're having this conversation because there is a premise, because tomorrow we'll be making reference to the 2023 election and the lessons to build on the 2027 election, or the elections of November 2023.
Yes.
And those lessons, if we don't properly learn from them, we can never move forward. Now, if INEC says, look, we are moving from one default to a better pedestal where we can be able to conduct election better, but they have not been able to do that, shouldn't we be questioning that? If at 2 elections were held on that day, or 3 elections were held on that day, out of the 3, 1 was not properly transmitted, but 2 were properly transmitted.
Yes.
Don't you think that it will raise suspicion in the minds of Nigerians?
Certainly it does. Certainly it does. It's a fact of the matter that...
but you, as the chairman of IPAC,
yes,
what is the opinion of IPAC in that respect? Do you think INEC met the mandate of the Nigerian people given to them?
Well, whether INEC met the mandate of Nigerian people or expectation of Nigerian people or not, I think the Electoral Act itself has robust provisions for us to exhaust, conclusively, whatever it is that INEC did or did not do, and that is where you have the election tribunal that will now look at it, take a look at what has happened, and then tell you that as far as the law is concerned, this is what the law says, and this is what INEC did. So now it's up to the judges to say that what INEC did is outside the law or is at variance with the law, and therefore INEC is now, found wanting.
But it is not everything that is legal or lawful that is absolutely right.
Well, I don't know. That's why I said the judges,
You might be protected by law, but you might not be morally correct. Well, so,
yeah,
but let me bring in
But
let me, before I bring in Mr. Akande,
yeah.
you are from the private sector.
Yes.
If you give someone 100 billion naira
Yes.
to do a project and the person does not deliver, as a private sector person, what would you do to the person?
I will issue a query to explain to me.
If INEC were the person that you gave the contract to,
yes,
what would you be doing to INEC?
I will give INEC a query, explain why.
Does INEC need
and
to
INEC has been given a query
on this one?
Yes, they were given a query by Atiku's camp, by Labour Party's camp. They gave them a query, you know, and then they now ask the experts to come and look at the answer that INEC has given to the queries, and they say, well, from from what they could see, you know, INEC has answered the queries to their satisfaction that they were operating within the law. I am not saying that I'm satisfied with what INEC did, but I'm just telling you that if you look at it from the point of view of the law, the Electoral Act which we have, you know, which to me is like it's like some kind of scheme by the National Assembly, because they knew what they were doing. They knew of these gaps. They knew that, you know, we came to a stage where it will be now the question of, is it INEC, you know, regulations, or is it the Electoral Act? Because they knew that if we were to go in the manner, if you remember, each time I come here, I always say that we are being too ambitious. INEC has been too ambitious by announcing that they're going to transmit this, do this, when the underlying grounds are not supporting what INEC is saying. You know? And we have not been doing what you said.
Let me bring that
if we have been improving on the Electoral Act, and then we have been working with the experiences we have had before, like the OS report was from the election that brought the late Yar'Adua to power, and there are things there. Why didn't Nigerians insist? Why didn't we make sure those things are done? So today, again, we have another experience, and I bet you, unless we, Nigerians, really stand up and said we must have these changes, you know, we tell our National Assembly, because INEC doesn't make the laws. It is the National Assembly that makes the laws. They are the culprits. They are the ones that we must interrogate. All right.
Let me bring in Mr. Akande. You watched, I'm very certain that you watched almost a 12-hour of rigorous delivery of that judgment. Right. What are your views on it?
Well, I mean, thank you. And I think, you know, it's important to establish something that we can't basically run away from. INEC came out of this election a damaged good. There's no doubt about that. Now, INEC itself set up a standard freely of its own volition. You know, just like you said, it was up to INEC to determine the guidelines. INEC determined the guidelines. INEC committed to the people of Nigeria that this is how we're going to declare the result of the election. In fact, the chairman of INEC went abroad. So he said, both at home and abroad, said, what we're going to do is that this result, when we get it, we will put it on our high rev in real time. Now, so what that did, and INEC did this freely of its own volition. What that did was that it created an expectation. As a matter of fact, it even helped the Nigerian people to develop some trust, you know, in the process. Now, guess what? When it was time for INEC to fulfill its own guidelines, just like you said, you know, for certain reasons, we could talk about that, but INEC failed to do what INEC said it would do. Now, it's right that if you look at the law, you know, and I think the judges also have affirmed that INEC hasn't really broken the law, but INEC has broken trust with Nigerian people. And that is not just a problem for INEC, it is a problem for political legitimacy for people that came out of that system. Now, so that is important. So somebody must carry the bag, and INEC set themselves up and could not deliver on what it promised. And so there is a lot of cynicism, there's a lot of distrust. INEC is responsible for that. But I think if you listen to the case, the ruling, 12 hours, very long, something struck me in what the judges said. And I think the lawyers of the petitioners, I thought they were going to come out, firing on all cylinders. The judges said that in a number of instances, the petitioners did not do a good job in the presentation of his evidences. They gave an example of videos that were presented to the tribunal, to the court, without dates, without specific information about when and where this happened. And when I heard that, I was scandalized that how could you have a situation where this will be done at that kind of national level? So I was expecting the lawyers of the petitioners to come out, saying that, I mean, that didn't happen. Judges sat down there and they said it to the presence of the whole nation, in the presence of the whole nation, and said, look, you guys brought in very shoddy evidence. I thought that the lawyers of the petitioners should have given some kind of explanation to that, because this is very serious business. And clearly, we all know that it is a very difficult thing. It has never happened in our history that you're going to have the court reverse a presidential election, and that goes to the fact of how difficult it is. But the judges made some very, very critical, observations about what the petitioners, the lawyers have done. And I'm still hoping that they will come out to give an explanation. But in all, it was a rigorous judgment. It's going to be very difficult for anyone to accuse the judges of not doing a thorough job. I'm not a lawyer. I've not read the entire stuff, and I know that the petitioners have they're putting together grants of appeal. But we must give it to the whole system. That so we had all of us 12 hours non-stop. We're listening to the judges. They were making all these very serious arguments, and that itself has a little bit of encouragement. But I will put my heavy punch on INEC, because INEC broke the trust with the Nigerian people.
Because this is beyond the judiciary alone, because there are those who are of the view that the court should not be determining our elections. Our elections should be determined by the Nigerian people, who go to the ballot to cast their ballot and determine for them who will lead them. Well, we should have our dispute being resolved by the court, yes, but we should make sure that our elections are watertight in such a way that in themselves they are able to determine who leads us. Let me see if we can bring in Senior Advocate Kayode Adeluola. I guess he's joined us now.
Hello.
Yeah, it's good to hear from you, Lionel Sick. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Yeah, there you go. I'd like to begin this conversation with you because this particular judgment will not go away until the Supreme Court has laid it to rest. Now, we know that the petitioners have vowed, at least we know two of those petitioners, APM, we've not heard of them, but we've heard from the PDP and the Labour Party. They vowed that they will approach the upstairs, the Supreme Court, in this matter. But there is one thing I like to draw your attention to, and this is coming from the lawyers of the PDP. This is a letter written to the court by Chief Chris Uche, worried about the fact that the court has not produced them with the copies of the judgment for them to be able to file their appeal. Written a letter on the 7th and another letter written on the 8th. What does this mean? I mean, it's kind of a frustration, or if you were in Chris Uche and the legal team of Atiku, how would you feel?
Well, I believe that the copies of the judgments should have been received by now. And any step that the lawyers wish to take, they can take right now. Well, the judgment was delivered on the 6th of September, which was 2 days ago. And so that means they have, 2 days have gone by. But I believe that within the time frame, they can still do what they have to do. Recall that they had 21 days to present their petition after the election was done and the returning officer had announced who won the election. With the appeal to the Supreme Court, in fairness to the lawyers, they would need a lot more in terms of documentation. They're going to require the record of appeal. That means copies of all the evidence tendered, copies of the pleadings filed, copies of the motions filed, copies of the the responses by the respective counsel as well as the judgment. One should be able to say without a doubt that all the papers filed should be in their possession right now. So to that extent, they have more than half of what they require. Well, the documents they presented, it is also my belief that they also have those. So they can say to the Supreme Court that they want this bundle of documents to be adopted as the records of appeal. If the respondents have others that they also wish to have, they can add those documents. But indeed and in truth, they require a lot of documentation, and I do not think they can afford to waste any time in fairness to them. Now, this is about justice. Everybody must ensure that they give the appellants every opportunity to vent their objection to the judgment, whatever way they see, and that the appeal is heard also in good time. Because then again, don't forget, the justice of the Supreme Court also must go through all these papers for them to come to a just conclusion.
The copies of the judgment that surfaced is the one that, I don't know if you have seen that one, is the one that has the Tinubu presidential legal team on it. I have a feeling that, is that how judgment has been transmitted publicly by the court? Or what? I mean, I don't know if you've seen that copy that surfaced and it's been circulated everywhere.
I have seen that, yes. And I observed that. I do not know how that came about, but whatever they would wish to happen would be the authentic, certified true copy from the court, rather than something that would seem to have been, doled out, so to speak, by one of the parties. So I think the registry should pick it up and ensure that the petitioners who intend to appeal have what they can actually work. And this is a very sensitive case. We cannot afford to trifle.
Since there is a battle with your bandwidth, Lionel Sick, but if you can give me an understanding of what you make of the judgment, the obiter in some of the judgment, the precursor before the final delivery of the meat of the judgment of the judges had come with a lot of strong statements from each of the judges. What do you make of it? A lot of the petitioners and their followers have come out to say, well, it does look like there were some personal manner in which the judges had addressed the matter.
It's not unusual for us to have situations where judges do not only refer to the evidence brought before them or to the facts, they also sometimes come heavily on counsel or parties who participated in the trial or the appeal. We've had situations where, in fact, very senior members of the inner bar have been berated by the Supreme Court, and sometimes, in fact, they've had costs awarded against them personally. So it's not unusual for a judge to say, did you expect us to go to the streets to get evidence for you? It's not unusual. And the message being sent out is that anybody going forward, coming before us for election petitions, must realize that it's a serious business, like one of the justices said. So it is not out of place at all. Or he should deliver the judgment. You can only talk about descending to the arena when the trial is on. So if the justices giving their own judgment, and in the course they have had some obiter dicta, those who are affected should take it in good faith.
So, I mean, give us just about a few seconds of understanding of what matters in the whole gamut of the judge's delivery of judgment. The earlier part, which is probably the longer one, which are usually the opinions, the obiter dictum or dicta of the judges before they go to the ratio, which is the meat and what becomes the law that anybody can take out of the judgment. Give us an understanding of what matters in that, because you remember what one of the judges told Senator Adeleke in the tribunal judgment that about the issue of dancing and all what have you, which was embedded in the obiter and all of that. And guess perhaps it's one of the reasons why the supporters of the Labour Party and the PDP and say, look, this was directly to the parties and the petitioners. But when it comes to the INEC, the judges were quiet. There were no strong statements against INEC.
I'll put it this way. When a court goes on to deliver its judgment and then it makes comments, obiter dicta, relating to the facts or the conduct of counsel or the parties, it's like, permit me to say, like an organist in a church playing a hymn, and then at a particular verse, he goes into voluntary and he improvises. But in doing so, he must be careful not to take away the keys and not to take away the melody of the hymn. For a judge, going obiter dicta requires a delicate balance in the sense that you must not leave either party with the impression that you have said things about us that will kind of paint us in bad light and not said anything about the same misconduct of the other party. But then again, two parties appear before you. One party has done certain things that are just not in accordance with the law. It's not a balancing act at that point. You haven't done what you ought to do, or you have come late with your evidence. You came late with your witness statement on oath. It's you that I must speak about. And not only that, as I said earlier, it is a message to those who are going to come before them. The election petition is a peculiar kind of civil action, time-bound in every sense. In other civil litigation, you have 42 days, for example, to enter appearance. You may come on the 80th day and say, for good reason, I wasn't able to enter appearance. I want an extension of time. If you have given good reason, the judge will extend the time. But for the election petition, it does not work that way. And I really do hope that when the appellants go before the Supreme Court, they will ensure that they have grounds of appeal that are arguable, and they do not go there with grounds of appeal that will make the justice of the Supreme Court also feel that they are simply fishing for justice. But then again, as I said, this is an important case. Everyone is interested. Everyone who wants to participate should be given an opportunity to be heard.
Kaudi Adeluola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you so much indeed for those brief, very sharp and incisive perspectives on the outcome of the judgment. Thank you so much indeed for your time. We're going to break, everyone, but when we come back, our attention, our focus will be on Bola Tinubu. We'll be focusing our searchlight on what he has done, what he has not yet done, and the impact of what he has done on Nigeria, Nigerians, and the policy and the future of this country. We'll be right back, everyone. Don't go anywhere. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. We're back, and this time we're talking about Bola Tinubu, what he's done, what he's not done, what he could do better. It's 100 days, not a yardstick here in Nigeria, perhaps more popular in the United States, but we are going to use it anyways because he is one who said, look, I asked for the job, and tonight, the job that he asked for, we will scrutinize whether or not he's done it well. Alaji Abajisani and Mr. Laulu Akande have been with me tonight on the program. And let me begin with you, Mr. Laulu Akande. 100 days, not me. You are familiar with American scenario. You lived, worked there for several years. So that is usually, in fact, there will have been by now some polls saying, what is the acceptance of Bola Tinubu in the last 100 days in office, whether he has gone up or down? Those kind of polls would have come out by now if it was in the United States. But for someone who said he wanted to be Nigeria's president, that is his life ambition. 100 days, does it look like the perfect fit for a Nigerian president?
Well, I mean, just to start on a very charitable note, I think the president has set a high tone just like you said, and people have made reference to this, the president told the governors that, look, during the elections, during the campaigns, we danced, we did all kinds of things, and we said we were going to deliver. So he understands, what is at stake. And you have to give it to him that he also has a heart to leave a legacy. That's my reading. However, the president could have actually started on a much smarter note. For instance, it took the president 84 days to inaugurate his cabinet. Now, that is pretty, took too much time to do that. Okay, so
especially for the person who said he's gone to Paris away from the noise to be able to settle down
conceal the stuff.
Yeah. So we thought that it could be faster.
Yeah.
On that note,
84
not
days.
a pass mark.
So not a pass mark at all. And if you move it back to February 25, or thereabout when he won, you could even give him another maybe 2 or 3 months addition to form your team. So the president did not do well taking that long of a time to form your team.
Is it a difficult thing to form a team? Now, you've been in government before. How difficult is it?
Well, look, so I served under a president that took even much longer time.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not the best person to actually...
But the question is, if you have won a shoe before, if you have been in the corridor of power, because there are a lot of dynamics that comes into... Because you have to look at the national spread, the federal character issues, the governors who are going to nominate for you, they bring one person to you, you think it doesn't fit, you cancel, security will do its check, politicians will do it, their own checks, people will lobby, and all of that. And people say, this is a major problem. If you have not won the issue before, maybe you don't understand. But you have been in the corridor of power. How difficult is it when people jostle for cabinet positions?
I think we must admit that it is indeed very difficult, especially for a consummate politician of the hue of the president. But I think this is one of the rare areas that I expected a lot more in terms of being decisive and saying that this is what I'm going to go ahead with. I don't have all the time in the world. I have 4 years. There are serious problems that are very urgent, and I need to go at a faster pace. And I think it is possible. It is clearly not impossible thing to do. But that's the first point. The second point is that there is hardship in the land. There's hardship in the land. Some of them, not that it's not expected. The president himself understood the importance, the seriousness of the hardship. He did address he did make a national address to show that he knows what is happening. He said the right things. But that is the reason why the level of urgency has to be much more critical. And there are 2 things that the president needs to do now, in my view. The president needs to, first of all, understand that if there is not an effective coordination of all the good things that he has spoken of, if you don't have an effective coordination, then that could as well be the end of whatever it is that you want to do. And 2 offices are important for that. The office of the Chief of Staff and the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Now, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation is a statutory office. Now, the office of the Chief of Staff was started by Obasanjo in 1999, but of course, the Americans, they pioneered the office. That office must not only be strong, that office must have authority to coordinate. My experience in government is that you can have a lot of brilliant ideas all over the place. If your coordination is not excellent, then your implementation is already out of the way.
It's the clearinghouse.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the engine room.
So there must be sufficient strength, and I imagine that the person that the president has chosen clearly has a lot of experience in terms of national politics, has been in Abuja since 2003, engaged in national politics, but that office must have authority to coordinate what is the president's agenda. Now, if you have a chief of staff who cannot coordinate, then there's a problem. So you must have a chief of staff who can coordinate and who has the authority to make those things happen, because implementation is the real bane of our politics.
In the last 100 days or so, Mr. Akande, does the presidency look coordinated?
Honestly, there are things that we can point to that doesn't show effective coordination. There are quite a number of things that we can point to. So, for instance, you saw all the last-minute changes. So 27 names were sent, and then additional 20-something names were sent, and then during the screening, a name was pulled out, another one was added. A day to the inauguration of the executive cabinets were changed.
Certainly, someone is
there is a problem somewhere, and I imagine that the president must understand.
It could be a political problem or a coordinating problem.
And it could be both. It could be both. It could be a contestation of interest, that the president, struggled to deal with. But the presidency has a lot of time. He has a lot of time to fix it. And he must understand that implementation is the name of the game. Implementation is the name of the game. And then you must give the ministers timelines. So what timeline does?
Isn't that the SGF duty to be able to set the KPIs? Because Boss Mustafa made it clear the last time. And he said, look, this is what the president wants us to do. But a lot of people will say, there are some ministers who shouldn't have spent more than 2 months under Buhari in the second term, but they spent the whole 4 years. Because you ask yourself, what in God's heaven and earth is this person doing in the cabinet with little or no performance?
Exactly.
And yet, you still have them. So the question is, saying it is not the issue.
It is enforcing it. And that's the point I was going to make about timelines. So the president must set KPIs and say that, look, in this ministry, this is this and this and this is what I want, and this is when you must deliver. Just look at what, and a good point of that, the Interior Minister. The Interior Minister has now told the whole country that, look, in 2 weeks, I'm going to deal with the backlog of passport application. Excellent thing. So we know, we're just waiting for 2 weeks. The president must set those kind of timelines, and those timelines must be communicated to Nigerians. We must know. That is the way to know.
Give me one moment. I like you have a gist on you. 100 days of Buhari, the man you ran against, you thought that you could do a better job, but he got Nigerians' vote. But has he done a good job since he got into office, from your own point of view?
Well, I think in Nigeria, in the context of our country, not America, where you can safely say you have a steady state, of the system. The system has reached a steady state whereby you can easily predict, what is going to happen. Unlike Nigerian situation, where you have to first of all grapple with all these, primordial, sentiments. You have to say, oh, is this one Yoruba man? This one is a Hausa man? Is this one a Muslim, or is a Christian, or is this, whose friend is this one? So that is not. I think that's what makes it difficult for a president in Nigeria to, within the shortest possible time, say of 1 month or so, to have his cabinet. Like Biden. By the time he was sworn, he already had majority of his cabinet. It's not like that in this country. And it's not, Biden would not wait for the governor of Texas or California or something before he appoints, before he wants to appoint, So we are contending with, issues that you can say are irrelevant, in the actual sense. They do not, how much do they add to governance in actual sense? So this is why it may not be right to try to measure the performance of Mr. President within 100 days, because within, like Chief Laulu here has said, 84 days was spent on doing what? Grappling with how do we balance, how do we ensure that when we announce the ministers, everybody will be happy. So, we must understand where we're coming from, the kind of country we have, the kind of issues that we have to contend with. Number two.
Sorry, Mama. I just like to pursue further on that question.
Yes.
The issue that you raised. Where I come from, there is a very popular proverb. Let me say it quietly, so that there is no. He said that whatever will happen later in the day, it is from the early hours of the day that you get to know it.
Yes.
So
if Good Friday is not from Thursday, from Wednesday.
Absolutely. That's another way to look at it.
Yes.
So the question is that isn't it good also to know that a fantastic president in a 4-year term could well be determined or perceived in his first 100 days? Is it possible, though?
No. I don't. You see, you must understand the realities of the situation we have here. The first 100 days you are talking about was spent on fighting, demand. Yeah, not subsidy. The qualification of the man. That the people are saying that this man does not qualify. He's not even a Nigerian. I mean, he has this passport. He has these cases within. Yeah, everybody was, and then as a human being, he cannot be insulated from those, divisive. I mean, those diverse
outside forces
issues. Yes, that were, So other climes do not necessarily suffer from that kind of, unnecessary distractions. Yes, yeah. that you have. That's why I'm saying we have to be fair to Mr. President. But from now on, I think we can measure. Again, I think when you look at
Mr. President, is the economy hardship fair to Nigerians?
That's exactly what I'm going to.
That the man who says
that's
he
the
can
point
fix the problem.
That's the point.
He didn't tell us that.
That's the point I'm making. Yeah. That we want to now to become the president of Nigerians, not the president of the political groups that is fighting and what have you. So because the measures he has taken, as good as they are, as far as an average Nigerian is concerned, it's not. It's bad because look at the state of the Nigerians. As they are worse off. People are complaining. But it's not all, lost. Hope is not lost. Why am I saying so? Subsidy, yes. They told us they are making trillions out of savings from the subsidy. And I think the problem of our economy is revenue. How do we get revenue to really grow those sectors of the economy that we need to grow within the shortest possible time so that an average Nigerian will feel the impact of the good things that God has given to this country. My problem with some presidents that, like he says, I don't think there's coordination yet, believe you me. Because if there was coordination, they would not give 5 billion naira to all the governors. I mean, what was the yardstick did you use? If you are really fighting or trying to give palliatives that will alleviate the pains of subsidy removal, look at the statistics from the MBS of the poverty in the various states, the population of people that are poor in the various states, or go to World Bank if you don't trust your own statistics. They told us that 86% of people in Sokoto, Yobe, what have you, are poor. And then Lagos, you don't have that. You have about 15% or something like that. And you gave Lagos State Governor 5 billion naira. Sokoto State Governor, you gave him 5 billion. To do what?
They earmarked it. 2 billion has just been released so far.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that...
I understand. I'm just clarifying. Yeah. The facts are that 5 billion earmarked.
Yes.
2 billion released.
Yes. 2 billion released, but I think it's a wrong way to go. That's why when he talks about coordination, I think there's no coordination. If there's proper coordination, they would have used data,
Let me. This is your area. I mean, you have been in the oil and gas.
Yes.
The president does not have a minister for petroleum. We have only Heineken Lokpobere. He's the minister for state for petroleum.
Yes.
What's your view on that?
Well, my view is that we are still not yet out of the woods as far as fighting the ills. That is a cancer eating deep into the fabrics of our of the economy of this country, which is the corruption that is so endemic in the oil and gas sector. And I think Nigeria, we think about Nigeria not from the perspective of a corporate entity, but from the prism of the individual. I think that's and I made this point. I said it's a wrong way to go. Anytime you want to appoint ministers, for the petroleum, for the oil and gas sector, you go to Niger Delta. What are you saying? You are introducing sense of entitlement to these people that it belongs to us, and then you are encouraging corruption by that act. So, by also Mr. President not coming out to either announce himself as the president of Petroleum Resources, or appoint somebody who will coordinate, or is it the coordinating minister of the economy that will coordinate that? I don't know.
All right.
But I don't think it's a good thing. Because when you have not so clear signals as how the direction of government is going, you create room for a lot of crises.
President Buhari was the minister of petroleum for 8 years. People criticized that. Now it's looking like the president also, President Tinubu, might follow suit. So that's the reason why I asked that question. Yeah. But gentlemen, let's wrap up on this. I'd like to get your final thought. Each of you. So give me your feeling about the general outlook of what the president has done so far, because whatever policy decision we talk about, either in security, in policies on economy and all whatever, it boils down to one thing: the welfare of the Nigerian people, the well-being of the Nigerian people. Are they better off before the president got into office compared to now? So the question is, generally speaking, what should worry the president the most in terms of the fact that if he's looking back 100 days ago, how he met Nigeria and how things are going right now?
Thank you for that question. The most important thing to the president is the welfare of Nigerians, and their security. It's even a constitutional mandate. That's why I think that the president has to take a very particular interest in certain ministries and almost ensuring that on a very regular basis is getting briefed about what is going on there. So we talk about hardship. There's a lot of hardship in the country right now. So I imagine that the humanitarian, humanitarian affairs,
Minister for the humanitarian affairs,
has to be a big player. The president must keep an eye. The office of the president must keep an eye on what is happening in that ministry. That is where you can, from the federal level, begin to do some interventions. What are the low-hanging fruits to be able to get succor to the people? How do you get the things that the ordinary Nigerians need? How can you facilitate? It's humanitarian, and it's even the Ministry for Poverty Alleviation. So I think the president must, just so you can impact that issue of hardship very quickly, pay a very particular attention to that ministry. And also the coordinating minister for the economy, who's also the Minister of Finance, has to also have a direct handle on whether it is physical or monetary. We don't have a substantive central bank governor. I remember that in the past administration, there was the economic management team, which the vice president was asked to lead by the president. And what that team did was that every Monday, every blessed Monday, they are gathering together and they are looking at very practical issues. And everybody that has anything to do with the economy, the CBN governor, the ministers, all the relevant MDAs, they are sitting across the table. Now, the president needs to ensure that that kind of very detailed hands-on is taking place.
I like your final thought.
Well, my final thought is that we have about 71 million Nigerians that are multidimensionally
that are living under the poverty line. 133 million living, multidimensionally poor.
So I think the yardstick, the measure of how much Mr. President has impacted on Nigerians will be how much have we taken people out of poverty. And then that can only be seen, like Chief Olaolu says, ministries like the one on the humanitarian, and then the budget and planning, finance, like you said, trade investments, so that we can attract investments from because we need huge investments in this economy. If we must chase out poverty. China did it, others do it. They are worse than us, before they get where they are now. But I must be on the ball, So that's what I think, the
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Alaji Abajisan, it's a pleasure having you again tonight on the program, as well as Mr. Laolu Akone, a former spokesperson of the president. Thank you so much indeed, gentlemen. Well, it's Friday, and I hope that you all will have your eyes closed, even outside of the courtroom. At least we are all humans, isn't it? Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'll see you on Sunday at 8 p.m. I'm sure, Kimale. God bless Nigeria.